Hi, I'm Suki.
And I'm Claire.
Welcome to Getting Psychic, where you can listen to us use ourselves to test the theory that anyone can get psychic. Hello and welcome. I'm so happy to be able to introduce you to Mari Belzunce. Mari is a breathwork facilitator, hypnotherapist, healer, channel, intuitive coach, and mentor. Mari uses her gifts to remind her clients of the best version of themselves. She channels guidance from their unique spirit guides on how to embody that. Welcome, Mari.
Thank you so much. So great to be here again.
Again and again and again. Mari hasn't actually been on the podcast yet, but we keep attempting to record this episode with great interference. So this is going to be the winner. I can feel it.
Yes. This is when we get it done.
We're going to get to the good stuff. Okay, I'm going to bring up a few things that I learned kind of in the process of our failed interview a couple days ago, but I'd like to start at the beginning. So I'm curious about your childhood. And I wanted to know sort of about your early years, and did you have any psychic experiences as a child? The weirder the better, please.
That's what we are here for, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I grew up as a very sensitive kid. I was highly empathic, and I grew up with people in my life, my family, especially my mom, who had a lot of emotional stuff going on with them. And so I grew up being highly aware of that, and that informed my behavior in many ways. But it wasn't a psychic weird experience, it was just being able to feel a lot and knowing a lot because of that feeling, right? Like I was highly aware of the emotions of the people around me. I
Yeah.
knew what I could say, and especially more than anything, how to behave around my parents, around my mom, around other people, just because of that. And I didn't have anybody in my family that would be open to exploring what was making me different. I was just, told to don't be so sensitive, don't be so emotional, don't be so all of that, right? I I was the type of kid that if I stepped on a blade of grass, I would cry and I would stop and apologize to the flowers, to the plants, to the grass, because um, I could feel things. And can you imagine? Yeah, so that would used to drive my parents crazy. That my grandma, my maternal grandma, was the only person who would talk to me about angels, and we would say this little prayer sometimes together at night if she was with me at night. And from there, talking to the angels, I would be aware of presences around me. I would be aware of other beings, but nothing too weird, nothing too crazy. The crazy started later. But it was through this maternal grandmother that she came to me after she passed. I knew when she had crossed over. I would feel her with me at home as a grown up. I had a feeling for her around, and I knew she had a message for me, and I had no idea what it was. And that opened up a lot of things for me later. But in my childhood, that's really what it was, just being aware of a lot of things.
So that makes me wonder, do you have any words of wisdom or advice for people who have children that seem to be sort of tapped in or highly sensitive?
Yes, well, definitely. I feel that at least what I needed at the time was encouragement and to maybe be allowed to embrace and accept the way I was. Unfortunately for me, my mom was very shut down emotionally, and she was holding on to a lot of pain growing when I was little, growing up. And so there were so many things that I couldn't talk about with her. So that caused me to shut down a lot and not embraced who I was. And so I think any space that can be created for children who are like that, and to encourage them to use their senses to pick up stuff, um, to try and keep that connection going, that would be great. And even for kids who are not sensitive, like I always teach my kids little things to do, because at that age, they are more open and it's easy for them to connect. So I'm always trying to get them sensing and exploring their gifts. I think it's so fun. But yeah, back to your question, I think letting kids be who they are and embracing them in that way, and creating safe spaces for them to express who they are, it's yeah, it helps everybody.
Yeah, totally. So, we're gonna talk about all of your many things that you've gotten interested in and skills that you've acquired on your path. But I think one thing, as we've tried to record this episode 30,000 times, that's kind of been sparked for me, or that has come up a couple of times, is that I kind of want to talk about discernment in terms of going through this process, learning new things, learning esoteric things, being exposed to non-physical realities, and how it might be shocking that a person like you or me could actually utilize discernment or be skeptical.
Yes.
So I kind of would love for you to talk about your skepticism and discernment in this field.
Yeah, well, I am a self-made skeptic, and I think part of it is because growing up, I was very empathic, and I could tell how much people deny how they're feeling, what's going on. So I would approach someone and be like, "Oh, what's wrong?" And they'd be like, "Oh, nothing. I'm okay." But I would feel that that person is not okay. And that was very confusing when I was very little. And eventually, during conversation, I would find out that something was up with that person. So my lie detector was always right in that way. And yeah, I would know something, ask a question, be told that wasn't incorrect, and then eventually came up to be. And that was, I remember the first experiences like that one at around age 4, but that was throughout my life. I could tell when things are true, like it's my thing, I just know. And that made me not really take people at face value and not really trust words, but how those words make me feel. And I trained myself, to just trust my instincts, basically because they were always right. Um, and I'm not saying that with arrogance, but it was my experience that I would know that something is up, and then it was. And so now, as I come more into this esoteric space and into this world of the unseen, I've had to navigate it through my discernment to that inbuilt lie detector. Not really that people are lied, but this reality to me, my experience is that it is created to try and confuse us so that we can find our inner truth. So there are so many ways in which things are layered in this reality, with the aim to try and create distractions, but not because it's a bad place. Inherently, it's more that is almost like going through a maze, that you can get distracted with these things here, or this new shiny thing that everybody's going after, and boom, with before you knew it, you forgot that the reason we are here, to me at least, is actually to come back to our own divinity, to realize that all the things that we get so distracted chasing this thing or that, or following one person or another person, is really designed to eventually force us to come to the center of the maze. That's where the exit is, and that's within, is realizing our own divinity. And so what I notice more than anything is that sometimes people get a bit lost in that maze. And again, it's not a judgment, because we need to go through that to remember, right? So it's part of the process. It's not necessarily, oh, you got so lost and I didn't. I get lost too. Sometimes I go off all these tangents, and then I have my moment of going, oh no, wait, I am it already, and I am it as well. And I have my own connection to the divine, where really all these other things are nice to have but are not essential. And that's what I'm such an advocate for discernment, because my main thing is like, okay, are you getting lost into all these narratives or things that sound so awesome at the expense of your own remembrance of that divinity? It's okay, obviously, to explore different things, because it's part of how we grow. And I am always into something new and exploring, but trying not to do it from a place of giving my power away, but I try to come to it as a way to maybe enhance what I already have. And that distinction, to me, so important in this day and age, because I found that in the new age spiritual community, the more people seek, the more seekers come into the space, the more of these mazes, these distractions come up. I don't know if that answers your question.
In fact, I think that was so good. The podcast is over now.
We go home.
Mic drop. We did it. No, but I do want to ask. I mean, one, yes, that all makes perfect sense, and it was really well put. And you just really went to the source of reality. But what happens when you're going along your path and you discover a new thing, and you think, and the alarms go off for you, and you say, wait, this isn't for me? Can you give an example? You don't necessarily have to like say the thing, because I certainly don't want to alienate anyone, but
No, definitely I wouldn't go there.
how do you exercise your discernment?
If I notice that I'm going maybe too far off my center or my path, and I realize, because I've done this so many times as well, I'm not saying it as a judgment, and maybe start going way too much into following a certain person in a certain way, and I noticed that maybe usually this is how I notice it, actually, now that I've never reflected on this. So that's a great question. I usually notice that in doing so, I start to feel that my gift, my essence, myself is not good enough. Or I'm
Oh,
hanging around in a space where I'm actually starting to idolize someone over me. And and I end up feeling like, oh, I'm inadequate now. And usually I spiral a bit, to be perfectly honest. And then I remember, invariably I end up in this place of like, oh my gosh, I did it again. There it was. That's the pitfall. And all I do is just then come back, I'll just get off that path, integrate what I learned from it. What was it about it that I got me lost? What was I really seeking from that? Why was I feeling like that person is better in inverted commas than me? Why was I pedestaling it? And usually it's because I'm going through something personal um, that is actually reflecting on myself, my human self, as is going through something that is not making me feel good. And that's how I got off my center first. That's how I started down that path. So then I come back to integrate that, have a moment with myself, do maybe, I don't know, some compassion, some self love, and I just integrate the experience and keep going. But yeah,
wow. That's
usually
really good.
usually when we get lost, I call it getting lost. Well, not really that, but you know what I'm saying, is my
Well, in a
way of,
sense, yeah, because you have to find your way home again.
yeah. um Usually when that happens, I find there's always a reflection of something going within.
Yep.
That's, this whole reality mirroring the inner world. So I just look for what was it within me that was a bit off.
Yeah. I think that's really critical advice. And also good side effect. That advice will keep you from ever joining a cult.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes.
Sometimes it's like a fine line. I always get so freaked out because the culty people always use weird like spiritual lingo, but I
Yes,
think the defining factor is actually what you just said. The differentiator is like it's critical for them to put someone above other people. So,
yes.
if you're finding that, it's like alarms should be going off, right?
Totally, yes. And same with even when interfacing with other beings around sometimes. And how there's so many um, tricksters being. And I usually get asked, when people first start to interface, and they may come to me and go, oh, I don't know, are these my guides? Is this someone else? Who am I talking with? And I always say, if you notice that they tell you you are it, you are the only one, you are the special, they tend to put you on a pedestal in that way, it is usually a sign that it is not real, or that you are being misled, because they play on our weaknesses, same as how we get lost, right? We are off, we are not feeling good about ourselves, we are questioning our abilities. These beings would use the same things to just get you off.
To be clear, you are talking about when you have access to interdimensional beings, right?
Yes, or interdimensional, extra dimensional, just spirit beings.
Okay. What's the difference between interdimensional and extra dimensional?
Oh, it could be beings in this dimension that are like let's say in the well, not in the 3D, but um, how do I explain what I mean? I don't know what I mean.
Not
Um,
visible.
yeah, so no, not visible, but it could be um more like on the alien side, or it could be more on like more like us, but not in a body. It could be from inner earth beings that pop up, that they exist in these realms as in inner earth. So yeah, that's what I should say. Beings. It could be
Yeah.
any being.
I mean, yeah, I think it's hard to like succinctly classify all of the stuff that you could come across. But speaking of, how did you start coming across this stuff? These
um
beings?
Beings. Well, I was sensing my my team around me when I was little, so I knew they were there. I had interactions with them. um I've also had, because I grew up with a lot of death around me, I'll say. So also being aware of people who had passed. I never went out trying really to connect with anybody else. I was just very close with my guides. Um, and then as a grown up, when I started to open up and develop myself, at that time a lot of people around me were into ETs, aliens. Oh, do you see that orb?
Yeah. Oh my God. Uh,
um,
Orbs on live recordings. You
like that.
you definitely make some stuff show up.
He's talking about guides, and he's like, okay, here. So
Oh
roll
my
call, there you
God.
go.
Oh my God, did you see it?
Yeah, it's playing with us now.
It
Roll
was
call.
dance. Okay, let me clarify. I have chills all over my body. So, at first we saw an orb fly through like in front of my camera, and then we commented on it, and then it just like danced around in front of me. Like it's like, let me make sure that you don't think this is dust. So
Oh,
anyway, keep going. I just had to
so
clarify.
cool. No, I just love that they showed up as we started to talk about connecting with beings, right? They've been so quiet in all our
Oh my
attempts to record this.
God.
And now I just love how amazing they are at showing up. Um,
That was awesome.
yeah, credit where it's due. So eventually, as I was saying, when I started to open up and develop myself as a grown up, as an adult woman, everybody around me, or a lot of people around me, were really into aliens and ETs, and I had no idea. I had big um resistance to it, because I felt comfortable, with who I felt comfortable talking, and um spirits of people who had passed were were easy for me to pick up. I could, sometimes be hanging out with people and just see, get the feeling for their grandparents or whatever. But this was like, okay, how who are all these things like that everybody's talking about? Who are all these beings? And um so after I got past the resistance, I'm like, okay, I should try and explore this more. And I had readings trying to understand my my galactic heritage or whatever. And I was told very clearly, oh, if you want to connect with them, it's so easy. These are the steps or whatever, or try to make contact, all those things. Um, and I did, but the first thing that my guides told me is like, when you start to expand and broaden that, who you connect with, just be very careful, because there are so many tricksters out there that would present themselves as being something, and usually some are just plain bad. They want to use you for something else, or derail you, or they just um yeah, that's what they do. But then they explain there are others that are just tricksters, and they would just have fun with you, sending you on a spin. And usually what they do is they tell you so many things that are correct to sort of earn your trust. And they will tell you, you know all the things that you can somehow confirm, or they know stuff about you, or they tell you that something is going to happen, and it happens. So they earn your trust, and then eventually they just slowly start to get you 1 degree off and off and off. And again, that's where discernment is so needed. It's so needed to really see what's going on. And basically, I was told two things. You will know the whether a relationship with a being that you can't see is good or bad, based on basically the long-term side effects from it, the long-term results. Are you growing as a person? Is this relationship expanding you somehow, or are you just wasting time, after a year, doing things that I tell you to do, going off on all these whatever tangents? And what is that, is that developing you or others in any way? And the other one, was watch out for any interactions that tell you are, that play on your ego, basically, because that's how mostly we get hooked into those ego role playing that, yeah.
So to clarify, it's identical to dealing with other humans.
Exactly. Exactly. But at least with other humans, we're more used to having our guard up a little bit. Sometimes with these other beings, it's like, oh my gosh, we already put them as above ourselves, right? It's like, oh my gosh, if they are an alien, surely they are better than me. Right? So we are already like this, oh, please embrace me, please. Connect with me, make me feel good. So we're already coming into the relationship usually with a bit of I'm less than you already
Yeah,
mentality.
totally.
Yeah. So
Because
gotta be careful.
just the nature of connecting with an interdimensional being kind of makes you feel special and excited right away.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, I can imagine it would be difficult to maintain your discernment. But like, do you have an example of a situation where you had to be like, oh, you're cut off to like
Um,
an entity?
no, I personally haven't really, again, because I keep always coming back to really me, myself, and I, in a way, and my higher self and my guide. So I don't really extend myself outwards in that way. I just keep myself usually tight. But I've seen with people that come to me sometimes to say, oh, I am working with this guide, can you check? Or this being, and is we have all these missions line up, and they're saying that I am the only one that can do, I don't know, XYZ, or I don't want to give a too clear example, just
Yeah,
in
totally.
case. Um, but I've seen that in others. Yeah.
And so do you say to walk away?
Yeah,
Or-
I give my what I feel about the situation. Usually they don't listen and they still keep going, but that's okay. That's sometimes we need that, sometimes we gotta go through those processes, and that's fair enough.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I don't
Okay.
ever want to put myself in a situation that I think I know better than others. Maybe that person needed that experience and still needs it.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Totally. I get it. Okay. So is this a scenario where you're because I want to kind of like explain your career with this stuff. So I know that you do coaching,
Yeah.
and I know that you also do all different types of readings and energy work and hypnotherapy.
Yes.
Um, so can you sort of like explain to our audience what your um what do I want to call it? Not like your spiritual career, but I mean, what do I call it? Like your
Every time someone asks me, so what do you do? I'm like, oh, that's such a hard question for me to answer.
yeah, no kidding, because you do
Yeah.
everything.
So what I feel is that I've gathered tools along the way. Um, but I don't necessarily like I've done a lot of different work, breath work trainings. I've done a lot of work with the nervous system and spine and all that. I've done a lot of trainings in using breath work and the nervous system as a way to transform yourself, like help people become who they want to become through rewiring the nervous system with breath work and other tools. And the reason why I do that, and I use hypnosis as well as a way to give people an experience and help them imprint new beliefs, or another way of, let's say, rewiring, is helping pluck out limitations and replace them with basically the opposite, so that they can become who they are looking to become. But I feel that all these are tools that help me, because when I tune into someone, I can see their energy, their potential, their highest potential. I see them as who they can be, right? And then I can use that and tap into where the limitations are. Usually those type of things are easier for someone else to see, but very difficult for a person to see that for themselves. And so I feel that in all these other tools that I have are not something different and separate as to what I do. They are ways in which I can say, okay, someone comes to me and they have a goal, something that they want to achieve, and don't know how to get there. And I can tune in and be like, oh my gosh, yes, that goal is totally possible. You're built for that. Because I also believe that usually our wishes and desires, if we have them, is because they are possible, right? We wouldn't be in resonance with them if it wasn't. So I got really excited. Oh my gosh, yes, you could be so amazing at that. Go for it. Okay, why are you not? Why are you holding back? Why are you doubting that you can? Um, and I can see where the patterns are. And in the beginning, I used to be more like, okay, I'll just work with your energy and I'm going to work on blocking that for you, and then off you go. What I found though is that in a way, sometimes that helps, but it's more like a band aid, because if I come into your energy and I I then go into you, and this is a bit difficult to explain. I'm gonna do my best to put this into words. But if I go into your energy and I start manipulating it, I'm judging you. I'm saying this is bad, this isn't good, this should be here, this shouldn't be here. I am bringing my lens to your energy. And I don't ever want to decide what's good and bad for someone else because I'm not here to judge. So I'm introducing judgment into the space. And also we know from quantum physics about the observer effect. You can be a wave, and then I observe you and I turn your reality into a particle. So then I'm coming into your field, and just even if I try to be as neutral as I can be, I'm observing your energy. And if I start to then make judgments on it, there is a possibility that just by doing that and trying to quote unquote unblock something, I can make it, I'm not going to say worse, but I don't think that's how I can best serve you.
Are you trying to say you're going to fuck it up?
No, it's not about that. But what I'm coming from is we don't have a blockage for no reason. God doesn't make mistakes. Let's put it away. Or your higher self doesn't make mistakes, or your soul doesn't make mistakes. So when we call something a blockage, it could be is usually a result of your karma. Something happened, cause and effect, that now is making that energy not flow as greatly as it can be, right? So I can come and say, okay, I'm going to remove that. But am I robbing yourself of a lesson? Am I taking away the experience of you working through something, transcending a situation? And what happens is, let's say I go and take some, like I remove an energy or a blockage from that space. So, but you can't remove karma, so you still will create another situation eventually. Maybe you feel great for 6 months or a year or 10, but eventually you will create a similar situation that gets you in a similar position again. So that's what I call it. It's like a band-aid. And sometimes people need the band-aid. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes someone is in so much pain in such a way that they need that support. So I'm not saying to to all the healers out there, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I'm just using tools. I found after a period of time that I rather use tools that get the person to see for themselves where they are blocking themselves. And I can teach them how to move energy, how to maybe use their breath as an alchemy, how they can do somatic release from their body. So then they are in control of their process, and I can guide them from the sidelines. I feel that is the most empowering thing I can do for someone else, not give them the fish, but teach them how to fish. And so I've come to that point where even with remote healing, we use remote viewing to just assess what's going on into someone, what created the situation, where they are heading towards if they don't use their energy. And then all we do is just ask for whatever energy that person needs to heal to come through. But we don't remove or do a lot of energetic surgery. We are like, okay, I'm gonna bring in whatever energy you need for your highest good in this point of time that would get you closer to where you wanna go. and we bring that energy, but we don't go plucking things out and doing that type of things.
So, are you or are you not observing people's energy anymore?
I am. I am.
You are. Okay.
I am. What I don't go is I don't go and judge, oh, this is, there's this block here from da 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 da, and it's bad, and you need to get it off. And, it's like, okay, you want to know where things are at? Yeah, this is where things are at. You want to transcend it or do something about it? Yeah, I can help you. I can show you how you can do that. I can sometimes help you clear it, bring energies that you can work with. Yeah, I just don't want to judge too much.
Yeah. So for you, it's more observing in a neutral manner and then teaching people how to navigate it on their own.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, I want to touch on some of the many tools that you utilize. Can you talk briefly about breath work and what it can do for someone?
Oh, yes. I was obsessing over breath work uh, for a time, and I still do, and I love it as a tool. It's part of my daily routines. Um, I use it in many ways. I like to do the longer breath journeys as a way for deep somatic release. It's great for people who have had severe trauma to face it and start the process of letting go without needing to sit and talk about it for hours. So that's where sometimes when things are so raw for people, they can't really go there, or they don't want to go there, talk about it and sit in that space for too long. So we can create controlled situations to start the process of bringing that up in the body and use the breath to um, release it and have a somatic release, a body release, without them having to relive a situation.
Yeah.
And then, because they are in that very open state, we can actually end the session with positive affirmations and visual clues to help align them to the more healed path forward. So that's so powerful, so powerful. And people sometimes have amazing results in one session. They really start the process of being able to face certain things. So that's amazing. I love doing that.
Mhm.
And then I work with other breathwork modalities that are not as deep and heavy, but they are great for helping change, great for helping manifest, and again, in a not as deep way, we can use it to really start getting clear on what we are letting go, what we want to alchemize, and then where we are going. So, for anybody that's maybe needing less heavy work, that they have already done some work and they want to manifest something, or they want to create a new reality, or they want to just learn how to regulate during the day if they are in a stressful environment for work or whatever other reason, to just really reset and get back on their heart space, get back centered. um these are great tools as well. And I like teaching that to my kids as well, so we do it together. And I think really breathwork to me is just such a powerful tool to just do life with. Sometimes it's not even a 20-minute session. Sometimes it's like a 5-minute top up
Mm-hmm.
and to get into the space. And I also use breath to help myself go deeper sometimes and into sensing what's around me, into getting into a space of connecting with my team just by using the breath to get there as well.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the science behind how like the longer sessions of breath work can help people get into an altered state? What happens there?
So it's all to do with the brain waves. It's all to do with the nervous system and balancing and down regulating the nervous system. So we go from the higher beta brain waves, where is where we are when we are in the thinking mind, in under stress, coming into ideas and like in that stressful environment. And through different breaths we can start to down regulate the nervous system and go into the more relaxed brain waves, to sometimes just cut off the monkey mind altogether by using different brains and changing the gases inside the body and shutting down the monkey mind. We are able to tap into this other space. It's yeah, it's amazing what kind happens when we are able to shut down our thinking mind and get into the deeper state, into more of the theta or delta brain waves that you can access so much, and then also staying there, staying
Mm-hmm.
in that space. I think it's called, the technical name for that is transient hypofrontality, where you shut down the frontal part of the brain, and it's
Hmm.
transient because obviously it's not done forever, right? So it's for a period of time you're able to just put the monkey mind to sleep, really.
Yeah.
And that's what access everything else. Especially, yeah, um, our nervous system is constantly receiving information, right? We are swimming in a sea of information and a lot of things that we cannot see, but that doesn't mean that they are not there. And
Yeah.
we are so focused on what we can see in front of us that we shut down all the rest, and we become tunnel vision, right, to what's in front of us. So when we're able to give the mind a break
Mm-hmm.
and access more, it's always a trip.
Let's see. I kind of want to talk about remote viewing. I want to know why you learned it, how you utilize it, and I heard recently that like remote viewing, which I'll let you explain, is like especially difficult for people who are really psychic or who see themselves as really tapped in.
But
And I would love to hear your take on that.
yeah, so I am a big fan of remote viewing. I find it amazing as a way of confirming psychic information. So basically, remote viewing is psychic work blind. So you don't know what you're tuning into. When learned, and I'm not gonna even try to say that I'm amazing at it, I am not. I'm still learning. But basically, when I learned, the process that I learned is called transdimensional remote viewing. But we start with viewing solid things, real material things, and then it moves into the transdimensional aspect where you're able to go more into the etheric function, like seeing, I don't know, beings or something that is not from here. But it starts with solid things, real things that exist, and blind. So basically, the tasker, it's called the tasker, the person that gives you the task, only gives you a set of numbers, and you follow this methodology and you follow these templates of different pages that you need to go through to come up with your report. And then you submit that to the tasker when you are done. And eventually they may reveal back to you what it was, the task. So what they do is remote viewing looks to describe things. So maybe the task would say, okay, describe the Titanic, for instance, right? But they allocate, they energetically tie a number to the question, to the description, right? So describe the Titanic. And they may tie it to number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So then you're given those 8 numbers and you start to just tune into those numbers and follow the templates that are asking you to do different things, sensing. And really, remote viewing should be called remote sensing, because you're not just really viewing, you're using all your senses to collect information. And you don't come back to any conclusion, you just give the information, complete those templates, hand it back to the tasker. And remote viewing is done usually in teams of 4, 5, 6 people, whatever. So the tasker will receive all these reports from the team, and he will analyze it, or she, and come back to a conclusion, right? So, okay, there are going to be parts that everybody overlaps, and that's the most useful information. There may be parts where some overlap, and then maybe bits and pieces of information that the others don't get, and then the tasker will make decisions based on that and come up with a conclusion, in short. And so I am fascinated by it, because to me it's a way in which I can test myself. I can see I can see if my ideas about something are right or wrong. And so the way I use it for myself is I have a box. I have one here. I have a box where I just put questions, bits of papers inside that box, folded, and then in my own time I may just grab one and go through my process and eventually go back to it and see it. And then I can compare that to my own opinions about something that I've decided, and I can see, okay, am I right or am I wrong? I was right in sensing or intuiting a situation or not. So I love it, because I think as psychics, it's great to be able to test ourselves. Usually, when we give out psychic information, sometimes it's not so easy to confirm, right? So, yeah, it may resonate with the other person, and it may not, but I want to know if I was right. And yeah, so for me, it's great for checking and keeping myself in check with my psychic self.
It kind of
Yeah.
also sounds like it aligns with your approach to doing healing guidance, because it eliminates your opinions.
Yeah, exactly.
So of
Yeah.
course that resonates with you.
You keep it as neutral as you can, because you don't know you don't know what you're sensing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I just want a slightly clearer picture of what is happening in your head if you can give it. Like if you're trying to remote view number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and you don't know that it's connected to the Titanic,
Mm-hmm.
now you close your eyes and you're meditating on the number.
Yeah, you're sensing.
So you sense into whatever the hell is associated with it. And then you start to answer a list of questions. What is an example of a question that would be on the list? And what is an example of what you give as an answer?
So what happens is even more than that, because let's say a question was tied right to the numbers. So I get the numbers. And let's go with the Titanic example, right? So what you do, so first obviously you try to bring down your brainwaves and get into the state, the theta state, lower alpha, and you're going in and tuning to the number. But first, what you do is you grab a piece of paper, you connect to the number, and you just start to draw whatever thing you want. And you're just bringing the energy of that question from the energetic realm to the paper. So you just follow your hand, you just let it go and start bringing it down until you feel that you've done. And that usually just gives you a feeling of whatever that is. I know it sounds very trippy, but you're dumping the energy into the piece of paper, and then you can sense that energy from the paper and start getting a feel for what's going on. But the most important part of remote viewing is to never come into conclusions. You are sensing and describing, you are not there to make a conclusion. So that's the job of the tasker, right? So, and it's a very easy trap, especially as psychic. We are used to always give meaning to what we see. And remote viewing is the opposite. You stay with the data, you're not giving meaning. And that's what I love it actually as well, because it really is as objective as you can get in the psychic space. And so once you've dumped that energy and you bring it into the page, then you go to the other page. And we trained our brains to with symbols. So it's called ideograms. And there's a symbol for a subject, which could be a person, an animal, a subject. There's one symbol for water, there's one for natural formations, there's one for energy, there's one for structures, which are like the man made formations. And we trained our brains to come up to link those things to those little drawings, the ideograms. So we would go into the hypnotic state and do page after page of just repeating subject and doing the little drawing and subject, to the point that it becomes subconscious now. So when we go into the state, then the next page is you just write the number again, and you let your hand do whatever ideogram it needs to be. So, for instance, I'm getting a subject then. So, okay, there's a subject. Great, okay. And now I'm trying to just sense the subject, okay? Is still or is moving. It's nighttime. I can see that it's night. And you just collect all the information that you can about the subject, and you keep going page after page of just collecting data and drawing. This come to a place where you do a diagram of the situation, and then you go through different matrices where you're trying to drill deeper into each of the pieces of information that you gathered before to try and get more out of it. And it's a very involved process.
Okay. So wasn't remote viewing originally created by the CIA, or where was it created?
Yeah, I think it came from intelligence agencies and the military, where they were working with psychics to gather information. It's cheaper than sending teams.
Well, yeah, also because they can't like time travel.
Yeah, but even just to suss out a location, right? Instead of sending a team and you don't know what they are going to be walking into, they can just remote view it first. You know, this guy Ingo Swan is usually referred to as like the godfather of remote viewing.
Yeah.
And I think he was working with some of the agencies to remote view far and weird locations. He's like the pioneer of remote viewing.
It's about clairvoyance, but it's about like completely eliminating our opinions, which is why it makes it so difficult for people who think they're really good psychics, which I think is hilarious. And then, well, I don't know what the hell I was just going to say. And
No,
then,
but I agree. It's great to keep the psychic ego in check, right? Because now you have a way to test how much we can sense, and then also how much we tend to want to fill in the gaps, because it's human nature to be uncomfortable with the gaps, with the not knowing. So if we have A and B, we're going to try to create a story to connect them, whether they are connected or not, right? Or
yeah,
we try to justify, okay, why am I saying this thing, right, about the psychic information, and make it fit. Now with remote viewing, you can't do that. So it's as raw as it can get. And I love for myself that I'm able to now test myself. And we've done this where we give someone, for instance, if I was to tell you right now, okay, sense the Titanic, what do you get? And you are very likely going to start using unconsciously, I'm not saying that you would do it on purpose, but you will one way or another start using your preconceived ideas of
yeah,
what happened with some information that you can get, right?
yeah,
If I say to you, okay, tune in to me, you are going to unconsciously just start picking up things that I say or that you vibe that I may be giving out,
yeah,
and use it with any psychic information that you can get, because it's our nature to blend them together. And
yeah,
we've done this where we could be, okay, go and do, I give you this tag and go and tune into it. And maybe it was the Titanic. And then compare it to if it wasn't blind. And I say, okay, I'm going to give you 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the Titanic. Go and sense it. And you just by knowing what it is, it changes the session completely.
yeah.
Completely. And it's, yeah.
That's beautiful. I mean, I really love that this entire podcast ended up being about discernment, ego, stepping out of the way.
Yay!
It's kind of cool, and I think they are really critical, super important things to be aware of as so many people are coming online and are super excited about
Yeah.
exploring their gifts. It's like, okay,
Yes.
temper it. Here are tools that you can use so that you don't like go get out of control and believe everything you see.
Yeah, totally. And it's one of the hardest things because it is so fun, right? It is so fun to explore all this and to try new things. And when you actually start to be like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it, I'm doing it, I'm doing it, of course you want to explore it and just go crazy. Way
Yeah.
good in way. But it's great to keep a bit of a grounded approach to it so that you don't get lost.
Yeah, that's super good advice. I love it. Okay, well, we have to kind of close it out, but I do want to close it with one thing. So, this whole podcast actually kind of started because I unintentionally saw Claire's aura with my eyes open one time. So
Yay!
that was kind of the beginning of how this project began. And as you know, Claire's my co-host who isn't recording
Yeah.
right now. Um, so I was wondering if you had any advice to teach people how to see auras.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was doing that yesterday actually. I was teaching kids how to see auras. It's so fun. Lighting, I feel, has a lot to do. Natural light. When you first start to try and pick up auras, I find that outdoors, or with natural light helps a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would never have thought of that. Okay, tell me more.
Well, that's what I find. And when my kids were little, I first taught them how to see auras by looking at trees and plants. I find that they pick it up easier when it's yeah, with trees and plants for whatever reason. I have no idea why, but they really really got it. And then with humans, against a clear wall or a white light color wall, I find it easier than when it's too busy or too dark a surface. And it's all about just looking in the space between, not just focusing on a person and looking at them straight up. It's more like, okay, if I try to see between your body and the space behind it or around it, and just soft gazing into that space, not really forcing like I'm gonna see and eyes wide open. It's more like, okay, just gazing around that space. And that's how I teach kids how to see auras.
It's kind of funny because I'm like kind of like softening my gaze as you're saying it, and I was like, oh, I could totally see yours as you're telling me.
Yeah. Yes,
But
soften gaze and just don't focus on the actual body, but just the space just around it.
yeah. Okay, so do you have any more advice beyond that in terms of like seeing, are you looking for color? Are you just looking for vibration or a sense, or what more could
Yeah.
you share?
Usually when people are first learning, they usually don't sense color too much.
Mhm.
But if you want to start picking up color, I find that upper body works better to start seeing the colors than lower body. It's usually where we have more flow because we store all our trauma in the lower chakras, right? So it's
Mhm.
usually, well, not for everybody, but in general, I find that upper body it's easier. I with As with all of these things, I find that the less that we wanna do it, the less that we try to force it, the easier it is to just have fun. So when someone says, "Oh yeah, yeah, I start to see it. I can see that light around them." Okay, if that can you see a color? No, I just see light. Okay, if you could give it a color, what color do you think that would be? Oh, purple or blue, and they start to tell you straight away. No, wait, I think it's like more purple around here, but bluish on this side. Okay, great, cool. How does that make you feel? Well, I don't know. I don't feel anything. Well, okay, but really, like if you were to say tap into that blue spot, how is that different from the purple that you saw? Oh, I feel like this is more, I don't know. It's got to do more with this thing, and the purple is more this other thing. And they start to tell you without realizing in the beginning that they were just seeing anything. Yeah, but I like to guide it that way, So, okay, yeah, you're not seeing, and that's fine. But if you were to assign a color, what do you think that would be? Asking the way it opens, that doesn't need to be right or wrong. It's more like, let's play. And before they know it, they are actually sensing color, or then maybe comparing one person to another. Okay, how did that aura and those colors make you feel now compared to this other person? Can you see that you were picking up more without realizing? And it just make it fun.
Yeah, totally. That is cool. I'm going to go play with it right now.
Color sensing is fascinating. I love it.
It is so weird. Also, I love that you point out, like, if you don't see it, it's okay, because I've had experiences like that where this never happens when I plan it, but I was like sitting in the back of a room and there were 4 people in front of me, and I kind of like, I don't know what sense I was picking it up on, but I want to say taste. Like I was like tasting that this person was orange and this person was blue. Like, so I love, especially for children, like, or people that are experimenting, to be like, well, if you did see it, what would it be?
Yeah. If you had to give it a color, doesn't need that like you said, doesn't need that you need to see the color, but maybe you just know. Or
Or
like
you
you said,
taste it.
maybe you smell it, or you taste it, or you just remember. Like, we don't know.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, we finally did it. We recorded a whole episode. I'm elated. And I don't know if it had to do with like that orb wanted us to have that conversation so it could show up while we were recording, or what?
Oh my gosh. But we got an orb.
So, I mean, win. Everybody wins, right?
Win.
And I think we got some really amazing advice. So thank you so much.
Oh, what's so fun. Thank you.
And I will talk to you soon.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as we did. Be sure to subscribe and follow us wherever you get your podcasts so that you never miss a new episode. If you liked today's episode, please consider leaving a review to help the other psychics find their way here.